connection is such an important part of our identities. Lots of things shape our identities, most notably languages, especially at an international school. Up next, we have Olivia Shen.
Thank you. You're at a family dinner, laughing and speaking one language with your parents. Then, mid-conversation, you switch to another language to text your friend. Later, you overhear two strangers arguing in a third language on the street, and you understand every word. Now, here's the twist. Each time you're switching languages, you're not just changing words, you're subtly changing who you are. Have you ever noticed how swearing feels lighter in a language you didn't grow up with? Or how certain memories feel sharper in one language but fuzzy in another? What if I tell you that the languages you speak don't just reflect your identity, they shape it? Psychologists such as Dr. Ellen Barley-Stoke call this the bilingual brain paradox. When you learn a new language, your brain doesn't just add a skill. It builds new thoughts and even rewrites parts of your personality. Over 50% of the world's population is bilingual. Yet, most of us never stop to ask, what is this doing to our minds? We'll now explore how multilingualism hacks our brain, and by the end, you'll never look at a simple hello the same way again. So, let's start with some easy science. Think of your brain as a city. Each time you're learning a new language, you're building roads, bridges, and shortcuts. But here's the fascinating part. Each road leads to entirely new neighborhoods of thought. A research done by Dr. Varika Marian, a psycholinguist, shows that the bilingual brains process information differently than monolinguals. For example, some bilinguals report making more rational decisions in their second language during high-stakes situations because it creates more emotional distance. Bear in mind, when I'm saying second language, I mean the language they didn't grow up with but still fluent at. For me, telling someone, "You're amazing," or "This is so exciting," feels natural and even fun in English. But in Mandarin, my mother tongue, it feels a bit cringy. It's not that one language is better, it's just that each language gives me the permission to express myself differently. But there's more. Linguists Edward Sapir and Benjamin Wolf had discovered something called linguistic relativity. The idea that the language we speak shapes how we see the world. For example, in Russian, there are two distinct words for light blue and dark blue. A research done by Jonathan Winnower and co. found that the Russian speakers are faster to discriminate two words that fall in different linguistic categories in Russian than when they're in the same linguistic categories. So in other words, when you're learning a language, you're not just expanding your vocab, you're actually changing your perception of reality, whether you realize or not. Now, let's talk about the fun part. Personality shifts. Have you ever felt like a slightly different person when you're speaking another language? Turns out, it's not just in your head. People act differently when they're speaking languages. In one study led by researchers from the University of Illinois, they asked bilingual participants to describe themselves in both languages. Guess what? Their answers were shockingly different. This applies to me too. Growing up being bilingual, I've always been aware of these shifts. In English, I'm more outgoing, confident, expressive. The type of person who's not afraid to take risks or speak up. But in Mandarin, I'm more reserved and perhaps more polite. It's like I'm wearing a different suit tailored for each culture. And then for different languages, we have some untranslatable words. Here are some examples. In Danish, there's a word called hug, which is often translated as cozy contentment. But that's a very vague concept. We don't really know what it's about. And since I haven't experienced it firsthand, it's really impossible for me to understand such a cool part of the Danish culture. And then there's sundoku in Japanese, a beautiful term for unread books piling up on your shelf. However, there's no single English word that can entirely translate its meaning. It does sound poetic though, doesn't it? If you could invent a word to capture something unique about your life, what would it be? No single language can hold all human experience. These so-called untranslatable words are the best proof. To truly connect with others, we need to step into their linguistic world. Of course, being multilingual isn't all about cognitive superpowers. There are challenges too. For many of us, living between languages feels being caught between cultures. You might struggle to explain concepts that exist only in one language, or worse, forget crucial words during important moments. Once, I blanked on the word spoon when I'm cooking with my grandmother, who doesn't know any English. I tried using sign language and I failed miserably. Awkward silence followed. And because I spend most of my time speaking English nowadays, sometimes I catch myself unconsciously slipping into a mix of both languages when I'm speaking Mandarin. And that can be really confusing for the listener. It's a funny but frustrating reminder that languages do shape not only what we say, but how we connect. There's also the mental exhaustion of constantly code switching. It's like a mental balance that requires both focus and adaptability. Exhausting? Yeah. Rewarding? Absolutely. Here's the thing, these struggles teach us resilience. They force us to confront complexity and embrace people with diverse backgrounds. In doing so, we not only become better communicators, but better humans. So, that is a lot of talking, but what does all this mean to you? Whether you're fluent in 5 languages or just starting with one, nevertheless, every language has its own universe. When you learn a new language, you're actually stepping into a parallel reality. Our world is divided by a lot of things. Borders, political beliefs, religions. While language barriers do add to the list, embracing linguistic diversity doesn't. If we embrace linguistic diversity, even in small ways, it can help us connect more deeply. It reminds us that despite our differences, we share the same hopes, fears, and dreams. My challenge to you today is simple. Pick a phrase in a language you don't know and use it this week. Say thank you in Mandarin, hello in Swahili, or goodbye in Spanish. Start small, because every word you learn helps you understand not just the world, but yourself. Languages aren't just random syllables. They're windows into humanity. So go ahead, open a window, step through. Who knows who you'll meet on the other side? Thank you.